back on. So welcome to the Whole League Whole30. This is just our kickoff. And then we're going to start tomorrow. I will assign you to GroupMe groups and I'll send you an invitation to them. And we're going to have two groups of about 20. One group of 40, it's like not intimate and ends up not being very fun. Um, and then this whole next week is just going to be kind of prep and education. Um, and then we actually start our Whole30 on Monday the 11th. Go for 30 days and end with a 2-week reintroduction. So it's more like a whole 60 is kind of how it ends up being. As we go, please jump in with questions. I'm a very, very casual person. And once I start sharing my screen, I doubt I'm going to really be able to follow the chat. So just unmute yourself at any time, jump in. It's really not a problem. So here we are. Welcome to the Whole League Whole30. What the Whole30 is a classic elimination diet where you take out foods that are typically problematic for people and then give your system time to clear it out. And then and then at the end, we do our 2-week reintroduction and we introduce those food groups back in very carefully, one at a time, followed by 2 days of Whole30 eating. And then you reintroduce a different food group. And that way you can really see how foods affect you. And then you can make your decision for the rest of your life of how much you want to keep those foods in your life if you can see that they clearly cause you stomach upset or some type of problem like that. There we go. So the Whole30, it's a kind of a 3-part thing. It's to reset your health. It can help with chronic problems like if you have allergies, skin problems, if you're tired all the time, if you have achy joints. It's just a way to kind of help see if the foods you're eating are causing any type of problem like that. I'm going to unshare for a second and just make sure nobody's trying to get in. Nope, they're not. So it's like, I'm just feeling paranoid that somebody's going to be waiting to get in the meeting. Okay. And then the Whole30 also works on your habits. If you're in the habit of 3 o'clock every day, you need a little candy bar, or you need a latte with some sugar in it because you're exhausted. So, we all have a lot of habits around what we eat and how we eat it and when we eat it. And this is a reset of that as well. And then finally, it's to reset your relationship with food. We all, as American women, we probably all have some food issues. There's kind of not a way to be raised in our culture without that. But the Whole30 can help you leave the diet culture where you're either on a diet or not on a diet. It's just a whole different kind of experience. But there is a different way to live. So there are 4 good food standards in the Whole30, and it's basically the foods we eat should promote a healthy psychological response. Get my little notes here so I don't miss anything. It's kind of weird talking with screen sharing because I can't see any of you, so I feel like I'm in a weird vacuum. So please talk whenever you would like. So foods that promote a healthy psychological response, those would be specifically not things like chips or cake or candy or cookies. These are things kind of food with no breaks that just makes us want to eat more and more and more. We want our foods to promote a healthy hormonal response. Eating a Whole30 diet, which is kind of a subset of the paleo world, it helps regulate your hormones. your blood sugar and your metabolism. It can also help you become fat adapted, which means your body will go to use fat stores for fuel rather than relying on constant hits of sugar for energy. Then foods should support a healthy gut. There's a lot of foods that we eat regularly that contribute to a raggedy gut lining. You've probably heard of leaky gut syndrome. Well, certain foods that we eat regularly contribute to that, and we want as healthy and solid a gut lining as we can have. And then finally, we want our foods to support our immune function and minimize inflammation as much as possible. So then it leads us to, okay, what do we eat? The bottom line, you're going to eat meat, seafood, eggs, poultry, vegetables, fruit, and natural fats. That's kind of like the whole menu. And what it is a whole lot of delicious food. You're not going to go hungry. You're not going to measure any portions. You're not going to count any calories or macros or anything like that. 3 times a day, you're going to fill your food up with real food and eat it. And if you're very hungry, you get a snack. If you're, we're working toward 3 meals a day with no snacks at all, because that is going to be the way of eating that helps regulate your systems the best. It's kind of like you want to eat and then you want your stomach to rest, and then you want to eat and then you want it to rest, rather than just being kind of constantly digesting. And of course, you knew this was coming. What foods do we avoid on the Whole30? The big one, these are the ones we leave out. Sugar, any kind of sugar, dairy, grains, most legumes except peas, and alcohol. So all forms of sugar are out, including artificial sweeteners, honey, molasses, anything you can think of. And this is where you can learn to be quite the label reader, because sugar is buried in everything. It is in ketchup. It is in chicken broth. It's just everywhere. And so you'll just learn all the, like, I don't know, 75 names for added sugar when you're reading your labels. And we avoid the artificial sweeteners because they just keep you having a taste for sweet and help and making you continue to want more. Sugar also contributes to gut dysbiosis. So a healthy gut is one of our goals, and sugar is very harmful to that, as well as, obviously blood sugar regulation. We avoid dairy. It's considered milk, the perfect food, but what it's the perfect food for is a baby calf. It's pretty much a concentrated hormone delivery system to make a calf grow, triple its weight in 3 months. So many of us cannot process dairy very well in our systems. We'll get bloating or respiratory issues or skin issues. But we're so used to them that we don't think about them, that possibly they're caused by dairy. There are a few people, kind of genetic lottery winners, who can eat plenty of dairy. Their body processes it well, and it's a healthful food for them. And so that's why we do the Whole30, to see if you're one of those people, that it's a healthful food for you. All of these food groups we cut out, we're not saying that they're bad food groups or that they're unhealthful. They're just unknowns until we're finished and we learn what works for you. And then grains. These are gone for the 30 days. Where at this point in the world, everybody's heard that gluten is not the greatest thing in the world for you. But for the Whole30, we leave out all the grains, the rice, the oats, millet, anything you can, corn. And again, they may be just fine for you, and we'll find out when we reintroduce how you feel when you eat them. And then legumes, those are out as well. there was a Whole30 rule change just in this last year where peas are now allowed where they weren't. So split peas, yellow peas, green fresh peas, those are all allowed. But other legumes we leave out, and very especially peanuts and soy, because they cause a lot of people a lot of issues. So we'll find out if you're one of them. And then alcohol, gone for the 30 days. Alcohol is kind of a special food group in that it fails all 4 of our good food standards. It doesn't give us a healthy psychological response. It makes our blood sugar levels unstable. It promotes a leaky gut. And it can really set us up to blow the first good food standard, which is the healthy psychological response. After a drink or 2, it's so much more likely you're going to order that carry-out pizza rather than get in the kitchen and make your salmon and broccoli. So it's gone for the 30 days. And then we have a few final rules of other things we don't consume while we're on the Whole30. Unless it's listed here, additives that aren't sugar are fine, but we do avoid carrageenan, MSG, or any added sulfites. Those are additives that are very common that are, very, very unhealthful for your system. So we leave them out to give yourself the best chance of making great progress on your health. And then we also don't recreate any baked goods or treats or junk foods like no plantain chips. They're, which are a common thing people eat if they avoid gluten. But we're really trying to break that habit of snacking and eating foods that really just make you want to eat more and more and more of them. So even if all the ingredients are acceptable, we don't make baked goods like a banana pancake or something. We're really breaking that whole habit. Another rule is that we don't weigh ourselves or take measurements for the whole 30 days. This is really a huge, huge thing. One more person, yay. For the Whole30 is that we're breaking the whole system of diet culture that's gotten, entangled in our minds. There's so many more measurements about what is healthy other than a number on a scale. And we want you to have 30 days to just be free of that pressure. And another reason is that your weight may go up and down during the Whole30. You may be bloated halfway through and, think, I gotta know, and get on the scale and you've gained 5 pounds. And then every other possible great change that you've experienced is thrown out of your mind. And all you can think is, but I really just wanted to lose weight. So it is such a strong rule that if you weigh yourself during the Whole30, you are back to day 1. I mean, it is like, don't weigh. And you'll really be glad you did, because you'll be able to see so many different changes that happen that you might not if you're only focused on the weight. Many people lose weight during the Whole30. Many people do not lose any weight during a Whole30. So it isn't a diet, and that isn't the point. And then, finally, the reintroducing foods, in that last 2-week period. We'll do it thoughtfully and carefully and make sure we're making notes, and so you can have kind of a roadmap for the future. So I just wanted to show some pictures of foods that, that you can eat. I mean, this is here are some great breakfasts, like a frittata or greens and eggs on sweet potatoes, or a veggie scramble with potatoes. You are not going to go hungry at all. You're going to eat, wonderful meals. These are all meals that have been made by people in my groups. So they are, they're gorgeous, they're filling, they're delicious. There's no reason to be hungry at all while you do a Whole30. Here are some lunch and dinner pictures. But I also want you to know that A compatible hot dog on a plate with some celery and carrot sticks and some compatible ranch dressing is 100% perfect Whole30 meal. It's like, if you don't like to cook, you don't need to. It's really okay. So what we're going to do is give yourself 30 days. Totally commit. Don't have it in your mind that, well, I'm gonna do it mostly, but I'm gonna have a little cheat day. You're not gonna get out of this what you can. You're gonna eat good food. You're gonna be transformed. You are worth doing this, and you're worth the 30 days. There are so many Whole30 resources now. Here's the Whole30. The main book is great. If you're a why kind of person like I am, It Starts with Food is absolutely amazing, with telling you all the reasons why these food groups we leave out, why we leave them out. And then Food Freedom Forever, I really can't recommend enough. Like when you're getting toward the end or during reintroduction, it really gives you the roadmap for the rest of forever. Like, okay, I finished my Whole30 and I know what foods don't work for me, but what do I really do now? There's your blueprint. And then these are all Whole30 official cookbooks, but there are multiple other cookbooks if you're somebody who likes that. You can also follow Whole30 recipes on Instagram for recipes every single day. But again, the hot dog and carrot and celery sticks, you're good if that works for you. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing here and just take any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know no dairy, but what about like almond milk or, different, or like yogurt, like almond based, or, different types of that. Is that allowed, fine, or should we stay away from that?
No, those are fine. Like if you can find like a yogurt that has no sugar, that's the big thing. You're going to look for that. Okay. I just bought some Tight Hill almond milk yogurt the other week and made like a Indian raita dip with the cucumbers and stuff. It was really, really good, and it didn't have sugar in it. Just read, because so many of the almond milks and things will have added sugar, but a lot of them don't.
So that's the main thing that you've seen in like yogurt or like alternate dairy, but like yogurts and milk is the primary thing is added sugar that we're looking at.
And some of them may have carrageenan because that can be a thickener, and that's okay. So, but there's a lot of choices available. It's not like you'll have to spend your whole life at Whole Foods. I shop at Sprouts a lot. They have a lot of things. Trader Joe's does, well, everywhere does. I mean, Price Chopper, anywhere you can find things. Nut Pods is a really favorite brand for people of creamer. But there's also like Elmhurst milks and store brand milks. It's just look for the no carrageenan or sweetener. Ask me more questions.
I'm interested in finding out about the transition after the 30 days.
Yeah. So what we do, and I'll give you a little chart. We'll finish, I think our last day is February 9th. So on February 10th, you'll all pick what you want to reintroduce. And some people, if they've really been missing alcohol, their first thing is going to be a glass of wine. Other people, if you don't care that much what it is, we typically have you go from least problematic to most problematic. And for most people, that's going to be introduce gluten last. That causes the most people the most problems. So a lot of people will start with legumes the first day. A lot of them don't bother people much. So you might have like peanut butter for breakfast, or some rice with your stir fry at lunch, and you'll just try in addition to your regular Whole30 meal, you will just add something like that. And then after that day, we go back to Whole30 for 2 days, and then we try another thing. And that's why it takes 2 weeks because yeah. And then we try to have, and just doing things one at a time, because like if on day 31, it's like pizza with extra cheese and a beer, and you don't feel so good the next day, you don't have any idea why. It's like, and for some people, it's really the combination. Like some people can do a little bit of gluten and a little bit of dairy, but they put them together and they're sick as a dog. So it's, we could actually do a reintroduction for 6 months, but the Whole30 is just about being practical. This is about as long as most people can do it and have it work. In a 2-week reintroduction, it's about as long as people can take it. But say like if you did react on grain day, non-gluten grains, and you just didn't feel very good, your stomach got really bloated, or you had a headache, or you got a migraine, go ahead back 2 days on Whole30, try a different food group. But at the very end, you might, or even a few weeks down the road, you might want to do where you had a day where you only reintroduced rice. You think, oh, I feel great. Rice is not a problem. And then you reintroduce something else and you don't feel, like oats. And it's like, oh my God, that feels terrible. So, reintroduction could be, really stretched out to so many different levels, but at least if you reacted poorly to grains that first day, you would know that's something to look at again,
Thank you.
Yes. And as I said, I think I said it at the very beginning, I don't know if everybody heard, tonight I'm going to put you into 2 different GroupMe groups. We'll have about 20 in each group. And it's how I run my groups. It's just basically an ongoing conversation where you ask questions, I post resources, you give each other encouragement, you share recipes. It's really, really chatty and a lot of fun. And if like, I have a terrible headache and I'm going to eat a candy bar, and then everybody will be like, no, you don't need a candy bar. It's like, be doing it in a group is just so much more fun than trying to do it on your own, because you're never alone and everybody's in the same boat. So it's a lot of fun. And there's like no question on earth you could ask me that is weird, or that I probably haven't heard already from, oh my God, my periods are weird. Why is that? And I was like, well, I don't know. But I was like, but really it's, and if you feel like hanging it up, lean on the group. That's what we're here for. And it's why I coach groups instead of individuals. It's not as fun for me, And you can ask a question pretty much. I'm not up during the night, but I am out on the feed all day. One of the lovely league benefits we have is volunteer release time that's paid. And so I just put down some volunteer release time, which is really great. So I can kind of keep up with things all the time. As I said, no measuring of anything. You don't need to count any single thing at all. What you do want is to follow the meal template. And I'll talk about that during this whole prep week that we have. But basically what your plate looks like is a palm-sized serving of protein, animal protein, eggs, fish, chicken, whatever you like. Fill the whole rest of the plate with vegetables and top it with some healthy fat. And fruit if you like. If you eat fruit, try to do it with a meal, not just by itself, so you don't just get a little sugar blast all on its own. It might make you kind of, want more, but fruit is great. So that's a meal. You do it 3 times a day for 30 days and you've done it. Does anybody else have any questions?
Terry, I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I know we're not supposed to weigh or measure anything like that. Is it okay to do it prior to?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. No, that is perfect. Like on day 0, next Sunday, you just weigh yourself all the ways you can. You just do it. And like some people definitely weigh themselves take some measurements like around their waist or hips, because you may, if you may lose more inches than you do pounds, because some people lose a lot of bloating. But just write them down on a piece of paper and put it somewhere where you're not going to look at it. And then put that scale, if you're a scale person, put it in the garage, put it in the basement, give it to your next door neighbor, just get it out of the house. Because for some people, it's a huge, huge pull. And I really don't want you to do that.
And it's crazy because I'm totally not a scale person, only because we can't weigh ourselves. Now I'm interested. So
there you go.
This is only because you can't do it. It's not because I'm like,
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. One of the fun little things we'll do during that 30 days is I'll have you take this little tendency quiz. Gretchen Rubin, have you heard of her?
No.
Anyway, she's written The Happiness Project and different books. She's a Kansas City native who lives in New York now, but she has this 4 tendency quiz. And one of those types is a rebel, Tracy. And I think we may have already identified you.
Well, and that's why I joined, because this for me was accountability. I was one of those people that felt like I could do it, but I didn't need a group. I don't need a group, blah, 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 whatever. So I realized after kind of watching some other people's YouTube videos and like experience and everything, I realized that I may want a group. So
yeah,
this is perfect, because for me, it's more accountability and support and sharing. So I didn't want to jump into something and fail on my own. So I was like, no, I think I should do this in a group.
It does help. It truly helps. I mean, a lot of people have said, I don't know, I've had probably, I think almost 300 people in groups now. Maybe it's almost 200, but I think 300, I don't know. But I mean, everybody says the group was what made it fun, instead of just, another weird diet or whatever, And we'll talk about diet culture a lot, that, this is not that. And, ideally, you could do one Whole30 in your whole life. You do it, you do a great reintroduction, and you know what works for you. You read that food freedom book, and you're just smooth sailing forever. You're not always going to eat Whole30. You don't need to always eat Whole30, but most of the time, you're going to have a meal template that looks like what we talked about. You may have some additional things, and you may have some treats sometime. You may have a glass of wine sometimes, but most of the time, you're pretty much eating that meal template.
Okay.
But real life and real people, sometimes you can be cruising along for quite a long while, and then you have a crisis, or we have a pandemic, and maybe you need to keep a chocolate bar in your desk right next to you just in case, But then, if you fall way off and you find yourself feeling really terrible, then do another Whole30. But each time you do one, ideally, your food freedom life is not going to look that different from your Whole30 life, because you're feeding yourself 3 times a day a plate of nutritious food. And it's what your body wants, it's what your body needs. And it's really, really satisfying, especially like about after 2 weeks, food is going to taste so good to you, because all that hyper stimulating food that we're used to, the over salted, artificially flavored, over sugared, over cheesed, it deadens our taste buds to anything that isn't super stimulating. Well, when all of that is cleared out, food tastes great. You really start. What?
That's scary. You know why?
Why?
Food already tastes good to me, so that's
well, that's okay, because you're gonna love it.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish things didn't taste so good, because I don't have issues with most foods. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna taste better than what it tastes now. Like, oh my God.
Well, maybe it won't for you, but it'll still be good.
That's fine. That's fine. I was just kind of kidding.
So something that Tracy said about YouTube, right? So I'm a complete YouTube addict. I love watching people's journeys. And I'm wondering, is there a way that people have found success in chronicling this journey? Like how are they monitoring their progress? Is that something you encourage? Is it something that you just treat the
I
same
think
as
if
a
you, I
scale?
mean, yeah, anything you want to do is great, as long as the chronicling isn't weighing or measuring, I am so happy with it. But you could share in our group every day. This is what I'm feeling. Or you could go on YouTube and do it. I think it'd be really cool. Yeah. And there's a really typical, and I'll post all this stuff, starting tomorrow, I'm gonna have just a lot of content for you guys, not overwhelming, but just some stuff every day. And there's a little schedule that is so common for so many people. Like the first day, you're pretty much just giddy and excited and everything feels great. And then, there's one period, I think days like 4 and 5, I think they just call it kill all the things. It's like you hate everybody and everything and the group and your job and, but you move on through. And the goal is like in somewhere at the end of week 2, whatever, you hit what they call tiger blood and you just feel great. For some people, it's very subtle. Other people, they will kind of irritate you because they'll be like, I've never felt this good in my life and all my clothes fit and I just ran 5 miles. And it's like, yeah, whatever. But we will say, yay. So, I'm somebody who has not really ever experienced tiger blood and I've never lost an ounce on Whole30, but I believe in the program so much. It is sound, it is nutritionally based, and it is not a forever thing. It is a learning tool, and I think it's really one of the best ones that I can imagine. And that's how I came to Whole30. I had already been eating mostly this way for several years. I'd been eating a paleo type diet. I have a autoimmune thyroid disease, and I was always trying to find things to help that. And so I've been eating this way, but my brother and sister both kept asking me, well, what do I eat? What do I eat? And I'd say, well, eat this, but don't eat that, and eat this, and don't, And then I thought, somebody surely already figured this out and came up with a plan to tell people. And so I started looking, and sure enough, here was the Whole30. It was exactly what I wanted for my sister and my brother. So neither of them have ever finished a Whole30, but that's all right. So that was about 4 years ago, and I've been coaching. I've been coaching groups since my very first Whole30, but I became a certified coach with Whole30 2 years ago. Wow. Well, I am happy to stay on here for the next 4 hours. I love talking about Whole30, but I don't want to keep anybody who is dying to get to the Chiefs game. But if there are any questions, please shout out. Let me know.
I just noticed in my vitamins that there's sugar.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
I just noticed in some of my vitamins, they have sugar. Should I stop taking those?
Technically, yes. I'm not going to advise you to stop taking a medication.
They're not something that I have to have.
Yeah, no, it would be great if you could find an alternative without sugar.
Perfect.
Yeah, they'll probably be a little better for you anyway. Vitamin manufacturers that put
the gummies.
Yeah, the gummies gotta go.
Yeah. They're easier to take.
They are. Yeah. And kind of along with that, gum is out for the Whole30. It's always got an artificial sweetener in it, but a kind of a funny little thing with gum is chewing tells your body to prepare to digest. And so when you're chewing gum, you're keeping your digestive system stimulated, and it doesn't need to be. It needs to be resting when you're not eating. So that's just a little gum aside. Some people have wonder they really like their cocktail on a Friday night. This might be a time for you to explore the wonderful world of kombucha. It can be a really fun substitute. Serve it in a wine glass if you like. Mix it with seltzer water, and it's really fizzy and delicious. The GT's brand is Whole30 compatible. Some of them have added sugar and they aren't. And it can be really hard reading the label sometimes to tell, but Health Aid and GT's are both good brands. And one other thing on reading labels, you're not looking at grams of sugar, because a lot of foods have natural sugar in them, like fruits and vegetables are going to have grams of sugar on the label, but you're just looking at the actual ingredient list. And if there's a sweetener there, that's what you're looking for. Anybody else have any questions at all?
Nope, just thank you for leading this group.
It's going to be fun, I promise. I really do.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm terrified, but I'm excited.
You're gonna do great. You really will. It'll be fun. I have never. I mean, some people drop out. I never hear a word from them, so I can't guarantee that everybody always had fun. But I have fun. But I'm going to set up the groups tonight. You'll get an invitation, and then you can just start by jumping in and introducing yourself. However you like. I'll probably post something about that, of what to say, or what, things you could include. But again, it's super informal, super casual, safe, ask anything. So I'm super excited. We will meet in the GroupMe world. Thank you guys.
Great. Thank you.